Welcome to ACFIM Talks, yet another episode. Today, the Friday, 8th of July, 2022. My name is Felix, the host for today's episode of ACFIM Talks. And today we discuss nothing other than Uganda's middle income status. Are we there or not? You know very well that the debate has been raging on whether we are in a middle income country or not, given the fact that World Bank came out briefly and was able to dispute the earlier communication by the president. But we shall be getting into that very shortly. But before we start, let me first encourage everybody to be part of this discussion by joining us on our social media platforms. We are live on Facebook, ACFIM UG, on also on our YouTube. You like our YouTube page and you'll be able to get the notifications. Also, we are live on Twitter at ACFIM UG, and also we are live on LinkedIn. You can catch us there every Friday, same time. We also run other similar programs on every Wednesday, and also on every Thursday. We have similar programs that run on that discuss nothing other than money in politics, including topical issues that concern me and you. Before we start, let me lay some bit of a foundation on today's discussion and why I think it is important that we do justice to it and understand and appreciate whether, as a country, we are a middle income status. You remember very well that I think it was on 1st July, the World Bank released a report that was disputing the statement by the President Museveni, and by extension, the Ugandan National Bureau of Statistics, UGANDA'S, that Uganda has already attained a middle income status. And according to the World Bank, Uganda's gross national income, GNI, per person stood at about $840 in the financial year of 2021, increasing marginally in the year, thus leaving the country well below the lower middle income threshold of $1,045 per person. The gap that Uganda has to cover to reach middle income status is $205. However, the World Bank is using a different yardstick to measure the gross national income, yet the President Museveni and UGANDA'S are using a yardstick called the gross domestic product yardstick. And according to the President and UGANDA'S, the gross domestic product per person stands at $1,046, which is about 3,945 Uganda shillings, and this makes Uganda above by $1. So we are having two contradicting, all contrasting measurements by World Bank and the one by Museveni and UGANDA'S. And the contradictions between World Bank and the government of Uganda on the middle income status have since sparked an online debate, and among them have been civil society activists who have argued that it appears that when Museveni and his government were planning to go into middle income status, they did not notify the citizens. Thus, the citizens remain behind. This is because the overall argument is that citizens don't feel that they are in middle income status yet. Today, we want to weigh in on this issue. And in today's episode, I'm joined by two economists. They are both regular on ACFIM Talks. I've had them here before, again, discussing economics, but from a different perspective. Let me start by introducing Moses Mulondo, who is the president for Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, UPPA. He's also an economist, has a master's in business administration. He's also a qualified journalist with a degree in mass communication. He's a New Vision leading senior staff writer on the national budget and a commentator on the national budget and the economy. He's also a coordinator of the Greater World Development Forum. I'm most welcome, Moses Mulondo.
Thank you, my brother, Felix Kafuma.
Okay, it's good to have you. Then also I have with me Moses Mushime, who is a lawyer and an economist with over 15 years of experience in public policy design, global health leadership, and civic management. He also holds a master's in economic policy management and also a bachelor's of law. He's a certified country trainer on universal healthcare and health financing, and is currently the executive director of Open Health Network and a partner with Chibuka Rashid and Company Advocates. You are most welcome, Moses Mushimi.
Thank you, Felix.
Okay, it's good to have you, both of you here today. And again, like I said, my name is Felix Kafuma, who is the host for today's discussion. And let's get this off the ground. And I'll start. Let me start with you, Moses Mushime. Let's start by understanding these two economic terminologies that seem to be the point of departure against which World Bank contradicts you boss and the president. There are two words here. There is the gross national income and the gross domestic product. Can you break this down for an ordinary Ugandan? What do these terms mean when we are discussing, especially when we are discussing our middle income status?
Thank you, Felix. Well, these are two methods of measuring economic growth. And one, which is gross domestic product, looks at the aggregate of the production of goods and services within an economy. Whereas the national gross product or national growth income looks at the aggregate production of goods and services by nationals of that economy. Now, in the context of Uganda, where you see most of the businesses, huge businesses, we talk about manufacturing, we talk about telecom sector, where you see foreign nationals, including foreign companies, you will realize that apart from maybe the fact that we also get what I would say aid and donations from outside countries, when you compare these two methods, there is always a difference, except for some countries where their nationals also have a huge investment abroad. Then the difference may not be statistically significant. But in the context of Uganda, there is a difference between these two measures of economic growth. And the World Bank has always insisted on using the gross national product or gross national income, because for it is adjusted by inflation and the exchange rate over a 3-year period. But in the context of what the president and the Uganda Bureau of Statistics have been talking about, they have insisted that we have crossed into the middle income using the gross domestic product, which has never been a measure of middle income status. So that's where the difference is.
Wow, interesting. Someone was joking that looks like Uganda set their own question and they answered it. So let me come to you, Moses. Probably may want to weigh in on that one, on the terminologies, but also because now it's clear the difference between gross national income and gross domestic product. The World Bank relies on the GNI, which is the gross national income. If we are to go by that, I may also want to ask and understand what explains, for example, what does it take? Let me put it this way: what does it take for a country to be declared middle income, and how does middle income feel like test? How will I be able to tell that I'm in a middle income country?
Thank you very much. First of all, for a country to attain a lower middle income status, it must have obtained a minimum per capita income of $1,036, which actually, in simple terms, means that on average, every citizen of that country is able to earn about 3.7 millions every year, because you just get the GDP of the country and divide it by the population. And the explanations of the two terminologies have been well put by Mushime. What I want to add on is that there is a very big challenge that we have with our statistics as a country. And I am actually one of those who were shocked when the president announced that we had reached a middle income status, because I have been keenly following statistics concerning our economy. I can give you an example. Between for about 10 years, between NDP1 and NDP2, our per capita income was oscillating between $600 and $750 in about 10 years. So it was a very big shock for me when the president announced that our per capita income had reached 1,046, when we had moreover just come out of 2 years of lockdown, when the economy was in the lockdown. So you can imagine for about 10 years, NDP1 and NDP2, our per capita income was between 600 and 750, in between there, which means it was increasing at a very slow rate. So you would wonder how within just a year, because the previous figures we had been given of our per capita income before the president came to announce was about 850. So you would wonder how a country that had been, actually in the world, Uganda had the longest lockdown. You know, our education sector was in the longest lockdown. So for about 2 years, a number of reports indicated that many companies had lost revenue, many companies had scaled out on production. So there is no way for a country that had been greatly hit by COVID-19, a fun economy that was almost in a recession, that had just come out of a lockdown, to have jumped all of a sudden into middle income status. I want also to give you a contrast that will show you that we still have a very long way to go. In 2019, about 3 years ago, October, around there, our debt to GDP ratio was actually approaching 50%, the red mark. And the government came out and told us we have rebased our economy. So when they rebased our economy, by that time our economy was $29 billion. So when they rebased our economy, it jumped to $32 billion. And in rebasing the economy, they explained that they had included economic activities like oil and gold, which were previously not included in our GDP. But you all know that, like, when it comes to gold, the bulk of our gold exports actually were not even from Uganda. They were from DRC and Tanzania. In fact, for the last 9 months, our gold exports have not even been appearing on the list of our exports. When a tax was imposed, we had that those who were smuggling gold through Uganda, they stopped doing so, and they are now smuggling it through Rwanda and other countries. So you again, at that time when they rebased the economy, many economists termed it as economic engineering, because we were approaching a red mark of a debt to GDP ratio of 50%, and when they rebased the economy, actually our debt to GDP ratio went down to 33%. And many people think that the motivation for rebasing the economy was for government actually to continue borrowing, because they had a number of projects they had lined up in the pipeline. I remember there is a time when we were in Parliament and there was a conference in the conference hall, and the Minister for Water and the Environment said that our access to clean water had reached 75%. And the Speaker of Parliament then, Rebecca Kadaga, stood up and protested it. She said, this is a fake figure, and she said, I am warning you to stop giving us fake statistics, because for me, I move around the country in Busoga and all parts of the country. majority of our people do not have access to clean water. So how can you tell us that our access to clean water has reached 75%? So we have a very big challenge when it comes to figures. But even if we take the assumption that we have reached a per capita income of 1,046, as the president says, again, many economists, and it's a reality, are saying this is not a reflection of improvement in the welfare of the citizens. You all know that whereas in NDP2, government's target was to reduce the rate of poverty from 19% to 15%. At the end of NDP2, the poverty rate actually had increased to 21.5%. In the recent statistics, when we were in COVID, we were told the situation worsened and our poverty rate reached 28%. So it's a very big contradiction when you are saying and the other thing I want again when we are talking about statistics, when they rebased the economy in 2019, 3 years ago, shortly before we entered COVID, they put our GDP at 32%, at $32 billion. Now, when the president was announcing middle income status, he said our economy is now at $45 billion. Really? In such a short period of time, would you imagine, especially when we are in a lockdown, that our economy had jumped from $32 billion to $45 billion? So I remember when UGANDA'S came to parliament, they wanted to explain the Polish government model. They had made some survey which they were using for the PDM project. The MPs on the budget committee, and many of them are economists, many of them are finance experts, they disputed the figures that we are given. Because UGANDA'S came and told us that the number of Ugandans who are in subsistence are now 39%. Yet all along, in all the previous years, even in the speeches of the president, we were being told that over 65% of Ugandans are in subsistence farming. So again, you see, and I have seen, I remember in that meeting, the UGANDA'S people and the Minister of Finance who had come with them, they were chased away from the committee because the MPs didn't believe the statistics which were given. So this is a debate that we need to have. I think as a country, we need to have a holistic debate on our statistics and the reality of our economies. When you look at our economy, even if we take the assumption that it has reached $45 billion and that we have a per capita income of 1,046. When you look at the 10 countries in Africa that had already attained that status, I can give you an example of Seychelles, which has a per capita income of $30,000. 30,000. For us, we are talking about only 1,000, slightly above 1,000. Mauritius per capita income is $23,000. Equatorial Guinea is $18,000. Botswana is over $18,000. Libya is over $15,000. Gabon is over $15,000. South Africa is $13,000. Nigeria is $11,000. Tunisia is $11,000. But mark you, in our vision 2040, for us, our target as a country, which actually shows that we are really jokers, our target and 2040 is about 18 years away. Our target is to reach a per capita income of 9,500. But all these countries, the 10 countries I have read for you, they have already exceeded that. But for us, our target is to reach per capita income of 9,500 in 2040. So it really shows. I don't know who the people who really make these plans, and we never have discourses to counter and debate these targets and figures that our government comes up with. But for you to set a target of achieving per capita income of 9,000 in 2040, when so many African countries have actually already gone past that, it shows you that we really have a very serious problem as a country with our policy makers and our planners.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. You are painting a picture. Let me bring in here, Council Mushime. You've had Molondo um, making a case, looking at the statistics provided, and let me bring in here, paint us a picture, because even me, when the president announced that we are middle income status, I struggled to relate with the figures he was giving. And I remember at some point the president promised that by 2020, every Ugandan will be earning 3.5 million annually. Of course, he was targeting the middle income status. But now, fast forward, the country is already busy in the thick and thin of the action around priority development model. We are seeing government trying to give grants to citizens to come out of poverty. A bit contradicting. You can't be a middle income country and you're still trying to get, you are still trying to give, to package poverty alleviation programs to the majority of the citizens. But for starters, who is supposed to declare countries middle income? Is it a preserve of World Bank to declare countries middle income? Can't we define our own indicators as a country, like the president tried to use the GDP measurement yardstick? And also, another question related to that, what does it feel if Uganda is to be a middle income country? What should be done?
Thank you, Felix. One, I think Mr. Molondo has elaborated well on the aspects that touches actually integrity of the data. UBOS, it is very unfortunate that UBOS is disagreeing with the World Bank, yet World Bank has been instrumental in shaping UBOS in terms of capacity building. And maybe one would wonder, before I delve into the questions you're asking, what is the motivation behind this hula barrow and the pronouncement of Uganda crossing into the middle income? One is to demonstrate maybe to the population that the government, the existing government is working, but the other one would be to demonstrate to lenders, including World Bank and IMF, that actually the economy has grown. Now you can give us a substantial amount of loans, because World Bank and IMF provide loans to economies based on their capacity in terms of absorbing, so that these loans do not distort the economy. So those could be, but if the intention is to achieve both objectives, one is going to fail, because World Bank has already disagreed. Now, the World Bank is a reputable organization and has provided a method that has worked for over years. That is the Atlas method of using the GNI to measure the status, the income status of a country. And this GNI is adjusted for 3 years to cater for fluctuations in interest rates, in exchange rates and prices. Now, here is the country that is pronouncing that has crossed into the middle income status when exchange rates have shoot up and prices have shoot up. So if we are to adjust, then we would actually go below what the UBOS is giving us. So we wonder why, for example, at such a material time, like Moses said, where we know that during COVID we lost over 3 million jobs, these people are not accounted for. We do not know how many have returned to these jobs. A lot of livelihoods were lost. And then you are coming us to give us this figure. Just January this year, the president, while in Korol, said that we had failed to hit the target. And this target was in the National Development Plan 2, which expired, I think, in 2020. Now, for a country, we've come to a realization that these methods actually do not reflect the realities on ground. I can tell you, and this one, Mr. Mlondo knows, that poverty is now on the rise. If you compare the figures in 2016-17 and now, in 2016-17, we're around 19.6%. Now we are, as per the figures released by UBOS in last year, based on the surveys done in financial year 2019-2020, we are at 20.3%. Now, based on the method, that means around 8.5 million Ugandans live below $1 per day. But if you took what other countries have taken to be the basis of the poverty line, which is about $1.7, we could actually have over 40% of Ugandans living below the poverty line. Now, as a country, and this, the National Planning Authority has been deliberate on this. We've realized that these methods do not reflect the realities on the ground, because there are many things that take place in rural areas that are not captured in these statistics. Talk about people in the subsistence sector. There are people who do not touch money. There are people who go to the garden, dig their cassava and eat. These statistics that are based on traded national or international traded goods will not capture such kind of economic activities taking place. Now, we set out to say, let's look at other indicators. These include the poverty levels, these include life expectancy, include maternal mortality, access to water, access to electricity, as well as other issues around access to social services. Now, when you look at what National Planning Authority had set out, as we speak now, we had set out, for example, access to electricity to move from around 16% to 30%. Now we are still at 24%. Access to water, Moses talked about it. We had set out to be maybe at 80% of households accessing clean water. Now we are still at 70%. When you talk about poverty, we had said to be around 14%, so that we can say now we are entering into the middle income. We are still at 20.3%. Now, the biggest challenge is the model that the government has used to engineer economic growth, where they have invested a lot in infrastructure without investing in social protection and social services that poor people depend on. And what we've seen is a rising income inequality as well as poverty levels. We know the whole battle around the parish development model, but I can tell you, for this parish development model to work, it needs substantial amount of resources, which the country does not have, and it needs to have technical and human resource capacity in place, which the country does not have. We still have parishes that do not have health center tools. We have parishes that do not have primary schools, and therefore we need that infrastructure in the first place to be able to propel the population into the middle income status. And what we need is a model of economic growth that tries to get these people out of poverty, and we close this income inequality. And that means, for example, putting in place means that we'll make sure that every productive citizen has income in their pockets, which the parish development model is not doing, because they are telling us we've provided 1 trillion to support the parish development model, and we know that we have over about 10,000 parishes in the country. But I can tell you these parishes differ in terms of demographics, they differ in terms of population. A parish in Kampala or Wakiso has a population that is 10 times a parish in rural Uganda. So you cannot say, for example, we are going to provide 100 million in Kampala and 100 million in a district in a rural area. And even this money we are talking about, it is not in one basket. It's an aggregation of different ministries: agriculture, water, energy, and they are just imagining that all these ministries will invest in the model, which is not the case. This money should be somewhere at a district. This money would be in a certain unit, but it is not the case. So we are very worried, and poverty will continue rising. That is, we are seeing it. Inequality is going to continue rising. The government is indifferent about rising prices. We've seen Bank of Uganda taking hazard methods to control inflation, which is actually not their job, because now this is supply driven. They have failed to arrest these inflation rates that are rising. Exchange rates are rising because our export income is on decline. So we need to rethink about all this model of economic growth that the country is yet to implement. Over to you, Felix. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Mushime. We are going to go for a break, and when we come back, we will look at these statistics again and ask ourselves realistically what should be done instead of cooking up these statistics. What should be done to actually get this country into a middle income status? Let's go for a break, and then we shall return.